Have you ever felt like you're spending money each month, but you still can't afford the things you actually want? Same. Yo también. Groceries, bills, random Amazon purchases. At the end of the month, I never had anything to show for it. It honestly felt like I was trying to hold water in my hands and it was just slipping through. For almost 2 decades, every single year I would think the same thing. I just need to make a little more money, just a little bit more, and then I can afford the things I actually want. And every year I would make a little bit more money and it would just disappear. Then I bought a pair of Louboutins by selling our old DVDs. Another pair I wore for over a year, basically for free because I bought it well. I own over 30 pairs now, and I built that collection working my butt off in a single income family on a real budget. No trust fund, no sugar daddy, and no credit card debt. Because luxury doesn't require debt. It requires strategy. I didn't make more money. I just started using the money I had differently. Today, I'm breaking down my complete 5-step budgeting system towards redirecting what you're already spending towards the things that matter to you, whether it's towards Louboutins or to some other goal that you've been putting off because you think you can't afford it. I call this my Louboutin fund. Yours might be Louboutins, or it might be something totally different. A trip, a bag, paying off some debt. Point is, whatever you call it, the system works. This video really isn't 100% about Louboutins. This video is a budgeting system video that is cleverly disguised as a luxury spending system. This is how you go from UGG mode to Louboutin mode without making more money. Some people call it girl math. I call it strategy. Let's go find your Louboutin fund. I did feel the need to address a couple of things about this budgeting system before we dive in, because I know there's going to be a lot of different types of people watching this video and you're all going to be coming from very different financial situations. So I want everyone to understand how this system can help. If you're in a great spot financially and you just want the tips, or if you're in a hurry, you can go ahead and skip to the next chapter if you want. Phase 1, the audit, is where the actual system starts. But if you're wondering if this can actually work for your specific situation, stick with me for a second. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, we are a single income family of 4. What I didn't mention is that we have been this way for the past 9 years. So for almost a decade, we have been on a tight budget and essentially living month to month like most of America. I wanted to be upfront about that because it's one of the reasons why I feel like the system can be helpful for anyone. The only caveat to that is that we don't have any debt. So I know some of you may have that added stressor of having debt. This system doesn't specifically address debt, but you can make that your fund. Like, you can make that the goal of this system is to save money for paying off your debt. This system can help you anyways because it's going to do 2 things. The first thing is that it's going to find where your money is leaking in spots that you don't even notice. So that right there is going to start helping you save money. And if you do have debt or something, you can use that money to help pay that off if you want. You don't have to have a Louboutin fund. You can literally make that fund whatever you want. So if you want your fund to be focused on paying off debt first, definitely go ahead and do that. Don't call it your Louboutin fund, call it your debt-free fund, and go from there. And then the second thing is that the spending pyramid phase, which is really the heart of the system, is going to help you get the most out of your money. So you're going to feel like you're getting more of the things you actually want or need while focusing on saving money. Now, some of you may be better off than we were when we started this system. Some of you may have it even harder. Maybe you're a single parent and you have childcare costs and just different expenses that I didn't necessarily have. It may take you longer. I don't want to pretend like it's going to be easy, but ultimately you can get there if you just keep chipping away at it and keep working at developing your system for you. This isn't about cutting everything or being on a really restrictive budget. It's about making sure that the money that you do spend is going towards the things that matter the most to you, so that you're getting the most out of every dollar. I'm going to be giving you examples throughout the whole video of things that I've done to save money, but you don't have to follow every single thing I do exactly. The main thing you need to follow is just the cycle and the spending pyramid. A great example is going to be nails, because I do mine at home to save money. But nails aren't really a big deal to me, so they're very low on my spending pyramid. But you may be different. Maybe nails make you feel like your best self, and it's really important to get them done. In that case, nails would be towards the top of your spending pyramid, and that would be an expense that you prioritize. So if that's the case, go get your nails done. Don't cut back that expense simply because I do it, because I have stuff I know at the top of my spending pyramid that maybe you don't have. You don't have to do everything exactly as I do. Use the stuff that works for you and skip the stuff that doesn't. This system is completely customizable for your life, and that's one of the other reasons I feel like it can work for anyone. The whole point of the system is to prioritize what matters to you. The only section that is truly Louboutin specific is phase 5, but stick with me through that section even if your goal isn't Louboutins, because the whole point is the mindset shift. Side note is that if your fund is a trip fund, stick around for phase 5. I'm gonna give you a brilliant example that's gonna change your life. All right guys, for real, let's go find your Louboutin fund. You have to know where your money has been going in the past before you can change where it goes in the future. There's 2 different ways that you can attack your audit, and you can actually use them both together, or you can just pick one, whichever works for your situation. The first method is the traditional budgeting method, where you just look at your expenditures over the past month. I didn't do this because we already kind of do that. We're always being super conscious with our money, so we already buy great value brand paper towels and toilet paper and stuff like that. So for me, we already cut that money and use it for other things. So I didn't go to that extreme. But if you're able to do that, go through everything if you can and see if you can find a way to cut money that way. It's never a bad idea to do that. I just wanted to be upfront that I didn't go to that extreme to get to my goal. But if you do that, you will definitely get there a lot quicker than even I did. My method is I looked at what I had to spend on myself personally, and I really viewed this as more of an annual look than a monthly look. Okay, we're doing this for longevity, and we're doing this for maintenance. We are permanently changing our spending habit. I think the monthly budget can be really limiting. Some important expenditures can get lost. For example, you will need to replace your clothes. You will need to replace your shoes. If you wear makeup, you'll need to replace your makeup. You're gonna have to replace your shampoo, your conditioner, stuff like that. You're gonna have to replace a lot of things that aren't necessarily in that monthly budget. Me personally, what I did was I went through my closet. So I went through all my clothes, shoes, socks. I went through my toiletries, like my shampoo, conditioner, stuff like that. I went through my makeup, hair products, the appliances that I use to do my hair, everything. I kind of went through my entire setup for what I do and what I spend money on to make myself feel better physically. So, to make myself feel like I look better, like basically like this, because obviously I don't look like this every day. I don't wake up in the morning looking like this. So that is what I did, and that is how I started my Louboutin fund. This is where most people avoid looking, myself included. I felt like it was really painful when I realized how much money I was spending on certain things. Remember to be kind to yourself and hold judgment. This isn't about judging your expenditures. It's just about figuring where the money's actually going so that you can redirect it later. After you've identified what your expenditures have been on yourself for the past year, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna figure out the cost per wear for everything that you need. I stopped asking myself, how much does this cost? And I started asking myself, how much will this cost me over time? This is really important because everything has a cost per wear. The longer something lasts, the more it's worth. The quicker something falls apart, the less it's worth. We're gonna analyze the cost per wear for everything that we just identified in the audit. The one key concept I want you to remember is that just because something has a high price tag that doesn't mean it's expensive. You're going to analyze the number of wears or uses for everything that you need. This is going to be really eye-opening when you realize how much everything is costing you per wear or per use. For example, I've tried every single shampoo known to mankind. I used to get the really cheap stuff like the Pantene Pro V and Dove and stuff like that. But I felt like I was replacing it a lot and it wasn't really working that well. I ended up finding a shampoo that I love that's a lot more expensive, and I gave it a shot. I bought a small container and I used it, and I ended up loving it, and that small container lasted me forever. I went back and I looked at when I purchased the container and then how long it lasted me, and I realized that it was costing me significantly less than the drugstore brand shampoos that I was using. This is a great example because that tiny little bottle of expensive shampoo was actually costing me less over time than the drugstore brand. So now I buy the giant container of it and I just refill that little bottle, and that's what we use. That giant container I bought last year and I haven't replaced it yet. That's how long it lasts. I only need to use a very small amount to wash my hair. And with the drugstore brands, that wasn't happening. I felt like I had to fill the entire palm of my hand with shampoo to get my scalp clean. That is a great example as to why we use cost per wear or cost per use, if you want to think of it that way, for everything. I realized that one of the reasons I continue to feel broke was because I was constantly replacing things I needed with cheap. This is the aha moment when you realize why you're feeling like the money is just slipping through your hands, because you're constantly having to replace items that you actually need. Now, the actual formula for cost per wear is super simple. My kindergartner could probably go through my entire closet and figure out the cost per wear for all of my clothes. You take the purchase price, divide it by the number of wears that you think you're going to get out of that product, and then that will equal the cost per wear. For example, I bought a Pre-Loved Simple Pump. That's a really old Louboutin style. I bought it for $100, which is a great price. Normally they're more. I wore it probably twice a week for a year. Now, even at one wear per week, that would be $1.92 per wear. But at 2 days a week, that's under $1 per wear. That's 92 cents per wear. So that's a pretty good cost per wear. I would have been completely happy if those shoes fell apart after a year, but they didn't. They were still in amazing condition, and I was able to sell them for a little bit more than what I paid for them. But even if I had spent $200 on them, and then I wore them for a year and then resold them for $100, most people are gonna look at that and think, I lost $100. But if you're wearing them almost half a week for a year, that is not a loss. I spent $100 to wear a pair of Louboutins half of my work week for an entire year. To me, that is a good investment. If I had been looking for shoes that I needed for work and I had seen those heels and said, you know what, $100 is too much, I'm gonna go with the $40 heels. On the surface, look like they were gonna save me some money. And then those $40 shoes only lasted me 2 months before they start falling apart. Those $40 shoes are significantly more expensive than the pair of Pre-Loved Louboutins that I wore for a year. If I were to try to wear those $40 shoes for an entire year like I did with the Louboutins, I would have had to replace them 6 times. That's $240. Here's an excellent example as to why you need to look at the cost per wear and not just the price tag. And this will be pro luxury and anti luxury at the same time. You'll see why here in a second. But this is my first pair of designer sunglasses. So these are Versace's, and I bought them in 2008 at an outlet store. I think they retailed for $400 and I got them for $200. I did save a couple $100 on them, but again, they were $200. At the time, a lot of my friends were like, oh my God, you spent $200 on sunglasses? Every single pair of sunglasses I had before this was less than $10. They were always falling apart. It always felt like they were just falling apart. So I felt like I was constantly buying sunglasses, and it was to the point where I actually stopped wearing them if I didn't absolutely have to, because I felt like they were always breaking. I wasted so much money on cheap sunglasses. But I wore these every single day for 8 years. So that in itself is a great cost per wear. Now, I did not baby these at all. I wasn't trying to break them or anything. It's just I had never had designer sunglasses before, so I really didn't know how to take care of them. I would throw them in my bag, I would throw them on the counter, they would fall off my head, and somehow they never broke. Like, these are indestructible. They just wouldn't die. And as you can see, they're still here. They just would not die. I got such a good cost per wear out of these. And now it's 18 years later, and these are the glasses I wear when I mow the yard because they're like indestructible. So yeah, I literally mow the yard in my Versace sunglasses. I know that sounds crazy, but these are just amazing. About 8 years later, I decided I wanted to get an upgrade and get a new pair of sunglasses. Since these were my first pair of designer sunglasses, I assumed that all designer sunglasses were great quality and I was going to get a really good cost per wear out of them. I bought Bulgaris and returned them after a month because they were so scratched up. And the funny thing was I actually babied them. I had a little case for them. I was super careful with them because at this point I had figured out how to properly take care of sunglasses, and they didn't even last a month. They were terrible. They were not the same quality, and they were twice as expensive as these. I ended up using that money that I had spent on the Bulgaris and getting another pair of Versace's. And so these are 10 years old and these are 18 years old, and they're indestructible. I am convinced that these are going to live forever. I can't break them. I swear, I cannot break them. So for me, this is an excellent cost per wear. I have just saved so much money over time by buying these designer sunglasses and wearing the heck out of them. But with that said, I don't want you to think that you have to buy everything designer. The Bulgaris are supposed to be a really nice brand. They're twice as expensive as these, and they definitely were. There are cheap brands that are probably very good as well. So you really have to look at everything you've been buying and try to figure out what is lasting you the longest. That way you don't have to constantly replace it and constantly feel like you're leaking money. It's those little teeny expenses that keep you feeling broke. Cost per wear is going to save you a lot of money over time. Even if you don't have a goal of like buying a pair of Louboutins, if you're just trying to save money, this is going to save you money in the long run. Of course, the rule is if it's something that you need to last a long time, quality. And if it's something that you don't need to last, Temu that. Just Temu it. I have a no middle ground rule. As you're doing your audit, you're going to basically be organizing your expenditures into quality versus quantity. I don't buy anything in the middle ground. I either buy quality, like the top quality, the thing that I really, really want, or I buy quantity. And that's, drugstore brand, stuff like that. You don't want to buy something in between. And the reason for that is you're not going to be happy and you're going to feel like you're spending a lot more money than you should be. So that's why I say this really depends on your life. Like if you have a foundation and maybe it's a $30 foundation and you love it, buy it. I mean, I don't want people to think like they have to either spend $200 or $5. But the point of the rule is that you don't settle. You don't want to spend a little more and still feel like you're settling. You're either going to buy what you want, right? Buy quality, buy exactly what you want, or you're going to buy the cheapest thing that'll get the job done, but you'll still be able to save money. And that will make you feel better because now you can save that money towards the things that you actually want. Phase 2 is your spending pyramid. This is where you reprioritize your spending habits at their core so that it just becomes second nature to you. When you build your spending pyramid, you decide what's worth your money and what isn't. It's really important to remember too that you get to choose what's important to you. Nobody else should be telling you what is a waste of money. This is up to you. This is truly where we get strategic about our spending habits. And what I love about the spending pyramid is you're not cutting everything. The thing about the monthly budget is that at some point you're gonna feel restricted. There's certain things that you can cut and it won't really impact you that much. But for me, I did feel like over time, I felt like I was just constantly restricted and getting nowhere. You're going to the grocery store and you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy that ice cream today because I'm trying to save money. And that for me is the biggest challenge with using the monthly budget, and only that. It won't permanently change how you spend. It's just going to make you feel restricted. For your spending pyramid, we're going to take all of the items that you've identified during your audit that you spend on yourself, and you're going to rank them in your spending pyramid. And it's going to be priority level from top to bottom. At the top of that pyramid is your most important thing. This is where brand matters. This is probably going to be your goal, whatever you're saving for. If you're saving for Louboutins or if you're saving for something else, that item is going to be at the top of your pyramid. This is the item that can't be replaced. It's non-negotiable. Me, of course, it's Louboutins. I love them, if you can't tell already. I use Louboutins not only to bring out my self-confidence, but I use them strategically for work as well. So that's why those are number one and they're at the top of my pyramid, is because they have so many uses for them and they just can't be replaced. The second tier is going to be the items where quality really matters to you, but maybe brand doesn't. Maybe you have a little flexibility on the brand. I put foundation in this category. Now, I have a lot of different types of brands of makeup, from the most expensive, super luxurious, all the way down to e.l.f. I have a very wide variety. But foundation for me is really important that it looks good. I honestly wouldn't care as much if, my eyeshadow faded or something like that, or the blush, whatever. Some of those items don't really matter to me, but the foundation does. So I put foundation in that category. With that said, I don't have one specific brand that I have to have. I like a lot of different brands. So I do use a lot of Guerlain. I do actually use Louboutin foundation. And then I have Prada and I've had Givenchy and stuff like that. They're all good. Honestly, they're all good. So for me, what I will do is I will just kind of keep an eye out on which ones are going on sale. And then I will buy whatever one is on sale that I can save a little more money on. And that's how I use that category. So that second tier is where you're still getting that luxury quality. You can just compromise a little bit on the brand and the price. The third tier is gonna be even more in between. So the third tier is where I will buy really good quality of a specific item, but use it sparingly. And then I will go with the really, really cheap version and I will use that a lot. So a great example is eyeshadow. I have Louboutin eyeshadow, the cream eyeshadow, and then I have e.l.f. They're both great, honestly. They're both great. So if you're not really big into eyeshadow, just get e.l.f. because e.l.f. is fabulous. Louboutin eyeshadow, I reserve that for really important days. I'm talking like CEO boardroom type of days. Everything else though, every other day I use the e.l.f. eyeshadow. So I find myself buying, e.l.f. eyeshadow a lot more frequently than I buy the Louboutin eyeshadow, which is a huge savings. The Louboutin eyeshadow that I like is $55. The e.l.f. eyeshadow that I like is $7. So that is a $48 savings right there. That is why eyeshadow specifically is on the third tier for me, is that I do use that e.l.f. eyeshadow quite a bit more than the Louboutin one because I save a lot of money by doing that. Bottom tier is where cheap is fine. Cheap is preferred. Example for me would be e.l.f. Like, I actually really love their primers. I mean, there's expensive ones that work good too, but I think their primers are fantastic for makeup. So I don't even try to buy a more expensive one. I just use theirs because it works great. In this category could be other things, like if you're getting a trendy top or an outfit or maybe like a girl's night out dress and you're not gonna wear it a lot, Temu it. Like, you really don't want to waste a lot of money spending hundreds of dollars on an outfit you're only going to wear once. I reserve that for outfits that are going to last me a really long time or I'm going to get a lot of wear out of. So if it's a product that you're not going to get a lot of use or wear out of, Temu it. Just Temu it, Shine, Target, H&M, whatever you prefer, but just don't spend a lot of money on that product because it's not worth it if you're not going to get a lot of wear out of it. Phase 3 is reclaim. This is where you start getting your money back. You don't need more income yet. You just need to recover what's already yours. In this phase, we're gonna start turning your clutter into cash. So this is where you can turn your DVDs into literal Louboutins. Then we're gonna start reclaiming money that you've been giving to others. So you're gonna go through and decide, What have I been paying others to do that I can pay myself to do and then pocket the cash? And then we're gonna reduce. So we're gonna take what we already have and make it last longer. That way you're saving money long term because you're replacing things less often. The goal is to permanently change our spending habits. So we're not just saving money today, we're saving money in the future. Liquidate. Liquidate your life. Declutter your space. Everything you don't use that is taking up space in your closet is stealing from your Louboutin fund. Steal space in your closet and in your home and in your life. You are hoarding dead weight that could be Louboutin money. Think of it like that. For the past 9 years, my husband and I have moved like every 2 years. It is a giant pain in the butt to try to move your entire household when you've got a lot of stuff. So we just got in this habit of decluttering, selling stuff we didn't need, giving it away, whatever. Not only is this great for you mentally because now your space is cleaner and it's not stressing you out as much, but it can be good for your pocketbook. I literally bought a pair of Louboutins by selling all of our old DVDs. Don't underestimate anything. Everything can add up to cash. Selling isn't about feeling like you're broke because you're getting rid of stuff, okay? You don't want to get rid of stuff that you actually use on a daily basis and that's important to you. It's just about being strategic and getting rid of the clutter and the stuff that is weighing you down. I think a lot of mamas can relate to this one, but I was carrying a couple of pairs of Guess jeans from 2007 and 2008 that I have carried with me around the entire world. Every time we moved, I would make sure that we kept them. I just refused to get rid of them. I was like, you know what? At one point, I'm going to be at my pre-pregnancy weight and I'm going to fit in these jeans. I'm going to wear them again. So after 8 years, I finally got back to my pre-pregnancy weight. I tried on the jeans and I immediately took them off and resold them. I listed them and I sold them. I realized I'm never going to wear them again. They're not even in style. I felt so cute in them in my 20s, you know, with like the little jewels on your butt and everything. They were so low, they show your butt crack when you bend down. God knows why I kept them. I would not go out now and buy them and wear them. I wanted to tell you that story because I'm sure you may have some clothes out there that you're holding on to because it's so important, right? You want to feel like your old self again and get back to those days. But be honest with yourself. Like, go through your closet and say, you know, if I did get back to my pre-pregnancy weight finally, would I actually wear this somewhere? Or is it just more of like a nostalgic thing to have? I'm sure you may have some clothes like that where if you really think about it, you're probably never ever gonna actually wear them again. Those are great items to yank out and list for sale. I think this is going to be everyone's least favorite is because it is taking expenses that you already have every month and bringing them in-house. You don't have to do this with everything, but this is a great way to save money and save it fast. This includes a lot of things, but for example, nails, your hair color, bringing it in-house and doing it yourself. Like I said, I know this is going to be everyone's least favorite step, but even if you just give up one of these, you are going to save so much money. Within 3 to 4 months, you could have a brand new pair of Louboutins from Louboutin directly. That's why this is so important. Just pick one thing and DIY it. For example, if you're spending, say, $50 a month on your nails, that's $600 a year. Over half the price of a new pair of Louboutins, or that is enough to probably buy a pair of Louboutins from the outlet stores directly, or to buy 2 pairs of free Love Louboutins with that money. Just by cutting that one expense, you could have a pair of Louboutins in less than a year. So I do my nails at home. It is a giant pain in the butt when I have to do them. I curse every time, but I'm saving so much money by doing it at home. They look good when I go out, and they match my red bottoms because I do splurge and I get the Louboutin nail polish. So for me, that's an easy win. Every time I go to work, my shoes match my nails, everything goes together. I really don't have to worry or overthink about what color I'm doing on my nails. I just get the Louboutin red color and we're good to go. Dyeing your hair is another one. I save a ton of money by dyeing my hair at home. A Louboutin. Dyeing your hair is so ridiculously expensive. Yes, it looks beautiful when someone does it professionally, but my God, what is it, like 150 to 200 now to get a full hair dye with highlights so it looks natural? It's ridiculously expensive. If you start doing your hair at home, within 6 months, less than 6 months, maybe 3 or 4, you could have a new pair of Louboutins from Christian Louboutin Direct. Go get them, Miss Z's. It is one of the most ridiculously expensive things that we do for ourselves, which it doesn't seem right that it's that expensive. For hair color, you don't necessarily need to go to Walmart and get a box color. I do mine, but I actually get my hair dye from Sally Beauty Supply, so it's a professional hair dye. I splurge a little bit on the hair dye. I think everything estimates to be between $20 to $25, something like that, when I dye my hair. We'll say 25 just to be safe. So my hair dyes right now, they cost me 25 bucks a month, give or take, versus $150 to $200 for a professional hair dye. That is why it's so important to try to redirect one of these expenses. You will definitely hit your money target a lot quicker. You can have a brand new pair of Louboutins from Louboutin Direct within 4 months without even like selling a bunch of stuff or doing the other steps. Now you can get creative with this too. For example, I do make a lot of our own skin and hair care products at home, like right at home in our kitchen. I've been doing that for years. I really like doing it, and I save money by making stuff at home. I know this one's not for everyone, but I wanted to give you this example so you could be a little more creative and think outside the box. So I make our conditioners, our body creams, I make facial cleansers, I do toners, and I do chapstick at home. Now, I know it probably sounds crazy to a lot of people to actually go to the extreme of making your own products at home. But for example, conditioner. I realized I was never gonna get a good cost per wear out of conditioner. Conditioner is really expensive and you need a lot of it in your hair. It's not like shampoo where you can use a tiny little dot. You need a lot of it. And so I realized many years ago that it was just never going to be cost effective, at least not as cost effective as I wanted it to be, for me to purchase a commercially made conditioner. So I taught myself how to make conditioner, developed my own formulas, and now I make it at home for a fraction of the price. I get an excellent cost per wear now out of my conditioner. What are you currently using that you can use less of? For example, I only wash my hair every other day. Now, this may not apply to everyone. Everyone's hair is a little different, but for me, I found that I can get away with washing my hair every other day. And then I cut down my shampoo use and my conditioner use by 50%. So think of creative things like that that you can do to reduce what you're spending and what you're using on a daily basis. Believe it or not, these small little reductions can equal huge savings over time. Another thing I do is I don't always put makeup on every day. I wear it to work and I wear it for most of my YouTube videos, and that's about it. So a lot of times I'll do my YouTube videos on days that I already have makeup on, and then my days off when I'm editing or whatever, I don't have to put makeup on, and I'm saving a little extra that way because then I don't have to constantly be replacing everything. So that's just another example. But go through your life and figure out, okay, what can I use less of and save money that way? The one thing I do want you to keep in mind is you don't want to make yourself feel deprived by doing this. If it's something that's really helpful to you or really makes you feel good, like you want to wear makeup every single day and that just is what wakes you up in the morning and makes you feel like yourself, don't give it up. But if it's something that's not super important to you, like to me, I really don't care if it's like a Sunday and I don't have makeup on, then go ahead and do it. You don't want to deprive yourself. You're just cutting in little places that will help save you money over time. Build a home and a job for your fund. This is where your Louboutin fund becomes real. You have to give your money a home and a job or it disappears. Your home is going to be where you are physically keeping the money, whether it's a bank account, whether it's PayPal, whatever it is, you have a physical home that is just for your fund. That's it. Finding a home for your Louboutin fund is the most important thing you can do. On the one hand, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. But then it's also kind of addictive when you do check it and you see how much it's growing. In the beginning, I was buying and selling a lot on Poshmark. When you sell on Poshmark, the money stays in the app until you transfer it. So in the beginning, I was just leaving it in there and letting it grow without me even looking at it. And that was nice because I would come across a pair of shoes that I wanted and then realize that I already had the money in there. But at some point, I started branching out and buying from different platforms. PayPal is a great one as well. It's better than Poshmark because there's so many apps and stores that use PayPal now, or at least accept it as a form of payment. And then, of course, finally is just having a savings account or a separate checking account. That obviously is fantastic because you can spend that anywhere. Open your Louboutin fund and start funneling all of that savings into it. This is where you start lowering what things actually cost you by buying smart and getting some of that money back. The goal here isn't to make money. It's to reduce how much the purchase actually cost you. One complaint I always hear people talk about, and it's completely true, is that if you buy a pair of Louboutins from the store, you will never get all your money back. And that is 100% true. It is so hard to get all your money back when you buy a pair of shoes at full price. I have yet to buy a pair of shoes at full price. I always find a better deal. This is really important because if the shoes don't work out, or if later on you decide you want something different, you want to be able to use that pair of shoes to fund the next pair. And you're definitely not going to feel like you're getting your money's worth if you're losing $500-$600 on the resale. That's going to be very frustrating. Now, I'm not saying you can't buy full price. If it's a pair that you absolutely love, that you know you're going to keep them for a long time, absolutely buy the pair that you want. Definitely. But if you're not sure, especially if you're new to Louboutins, I wouldn't just go out and buy a pair brand new at full price. You want to be smart about where you're buying them from. There is always a cheaper way to buy something than paying full retail price. The shoes are gonna be the same whether or not you spend $1,200 or $400, so you might as well save yourself some money. Now we're gonna go in order from saving the least to saving the most. Saving the least is obviously buying from a retailer but buying on sale. It doesn't happen all the time, but I do see a lot of retailers throughout the year having 20, sometimes even 30% discounts. The next best thing, and this is one of my most favorite options, is to buy from the outlets. The outlets are already 40% off. So you're saving 40% right off the bat, and they're brand new. They're still from Christian Louboutin Direct. Now, I do not live anywhere even remotely close to an outlet store. I don't even live anywhere remotely close to a Christian Louboutin store or a Nordstrom's or a Saks or anything like that. So you would think I would be out of luck, but I'm not, because you can actually buy from the outlet stores through Instagram. I have two different sales associates that I've used quite a bit. I have Luby Boy, who works at the outlets in California, and then I have Red Bottom Girl, and she works at the outlets in Florida. Both of them are amazing. It's so easy to buy through them, and then I usually get the shoes within a couple of days. So I highly recommend doing that if you're looking for the best deal possible, but you don't want to start shopping pre-loved because you're scared maybe of getting scammed. Buying through the outlets is definitely your safest bet, and you're getting the maximum benefit from it. Buying pre-loved ultimately is where you're going to save the most money. If you're new to Louboutins, or in general, if you're just worried about getting scammed, the absolute best thing you can do is to shop through a secondhand shop. There's a couple of reasons why you would want to buy from a secondhand shop over an app such as Poshmark or eBay. First is the price, honestly. I follow a lot of these secondhand shops, and their prices are always way better. I'm not sure how they do it. I know it's really hard to make a living having a secondhand shop, but their prices are always so much better than what you're getting on those pre-loved apps. So for me, every time I see one of their shoes pop up, I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. Holy crap. All of the ones that I'm aware of have been doing this for 10 to 20 years, maybe even longer. So when you're buying a lot of these pre-loved shoes, even if the shoe is like 15 years old, most of these shops were already operating back then. They have a wealth of knowledge on the history and the style with Christian Louboutin. So you can shop safely through them and not have to stress that you may be buying a fake. You pretty much have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than you do of buying a fake through one of them. So especially if you're new to Louboutins, I would honestly just shop through one of the secondhand shops. You can find out about a lot of these secondhand shops through Facebook groups. You'll notice them because they're usually the people that post quite frequently, or they may even put in the post that they have a secondhand shop. So that's how you can find out about them. I was going to put a whole list up here, but I haven't shopped from all of them, and so I didn't want to put a list and then risk somebody having a bad experience, you know, and then you got the name of that shop from me. But I will say I have never heard anything bad about any of the secondhand shops in those Facebook marketplace groups. So I feel like you're very, very safe to do that. I personally use the Highest Heel shop. You probably know that if you watch my videos, but I would say like half of my collection has probably come from her. I love using her. Her prices are amazing. She's been doing this for decades, and she always seems to find the most rare, like museum type pieces in her shop. So you can find some really cool stuff through her. The other thing that I love about buying from her, and this is going to be really important for the people who are new to Louboutin, you are getting all of that knowledge and experience for free. That is why I always try to recommend her, especially if you're new to Louboutin. Definitely buy from her first. That way you know they're authentic, and then as you get more comfortable, you can start branching out and trying to buy from like Poshmark and eBay. And then after the secondhand shops, I would say buying through the Facebook marketplace groups. I would say about half the posts are from people who actually own the secondhand shops. And then the other half are like regular people like you and I who are just trying to sell a pair of shoes and get some money back. Those Facebook groups are really good because there's just so many experts in the groups. And so if someone were by chance to post a fake that they were trying to sell, it would get flagged pretty quickly and removed. And then of course after that is all the apps like Poshmark and eBay invented and stuff. Those apps are definitely riskier, but you can get some really good deals. If you're wanting to shop pre-loved but you're not sure how to identify a fake, I'll link my full authentication course in the description. Because you have been so strategic in buying your shoes and saving the most amount of money that you can, now later on, if you decide you don't like a pair of shoes, or maybe you've worn it for a year but you want to get a new pair, something a little different, and you don't have $1,000 to spend on a brand new pair of Louboutins, you have a pair of shoes that you can resell and get a good chunk of your money back. That is why we shop so wisely when we're buying our Louboutins, is because you need to look at them as an asset, not a liability. Resale is where your mindset shifts completely. You stop thinking in one-time purchases and start thinking in cycles. That doesn't mean that you have to resell every single pair of shoes that you have. If you love the shoes, keep them. I have at least 10 pairs. I know I am never reselling them. They're in my wardrobe forever. But I have other heels where I feel like I got a good cost per wear out of them. And then I ended up reselling them, recouping some of that money and using that to fund my next pair. This is the difference between spending and strategy. And this is where one item can support the next. If you have that mindset of reinvesting and using that money to fund future things that you need, that's going to change your entire strategy, how you spend on every aspect of life. So when you do start to make those purchases, you need to treat them like they are assets. That doesn't mean hide them on the shelf and just leave them there like a museum piece, but take good care of them. Make sure that they're nice. Keep all the accessories. If they come with a box already, some of the paperwork, dust bags, keep that. That way, if you do decide that you want to resell them later and then reinvest the money from that resale, you can. You will definitely get a little bit more if you have all of that stuff with them. Take those purchases and turn them into assets, not liabilities. Have a great example as to how this phase works if your goal isn't Louboutins or if it's not a physical product. My mother-in-law prioritizes trips, so her fund would be a trip fund. She loves taking vacations with her husband. So my mother-in-law doesn't have a Louboutin fund. She has a trip fund. And what she did was honestly brilliant. She actually became a travel agent. Now, every single trip she takes is an investment. She goes on a trip, comes back, and now she has all that knowledge that she can share with her clients and help them build the best trip possible for their family. It's to the point where I lose track as to how many trips they take. It seems like every other week they're on another vacation. Bali, the Caribbean, Mexico, Europe, they are constantly on vacation. So what she did was honestly brilliant, and that is a great example as to how you can use phase 5 if your goal is something besides Louboutins. All right, Mama Sharks, here's your action plan. Tonight, audit your life. What are you spending money on that actually doesn't matter to you? Tomorrow, pull 5 things out of your closet, turn that clutter into cash. This week, pick one expense to redirect. I turn DVDs into Louboutins. What's your move? Drop the first thing you're liquidating in the comments. I'm really curious to see if anyone has something creative that I haven't thought of yet. Your Louboutin budget exists. Now go claim it.